This is the first video in a three-part series where we are going to cover the email management agent or the email assistant, as I call it, in detail. So we'll start with understanding the requirements or the use cases for the email assistant. What are the primary functional and non-functional requirements uh, that the email assistant needs to satisfy? What are the requirements that drive the functioning of the email assistant? So the email assistant is an intelligent agent that is primarily meant for automating the processing of emails, and as a result of which uh, it reduces the manual effort or eliminates the manual effort that is required for maintaining the multiple inboxes, thus leading to an increase in productivity, especially uh, for work-related scenarios. So that is the goal of the email assistant, the primary, you can say, purpose for which it is built. So now coming to the functional requirements of the email assistant. Primarily, these can be divided into four sections. So the first and foremost functional requirement is that the email assistant should be able to connect to different email providers like Outlook or Gmail, etc. And it should be able to fetch unread emails in batches. So you can configure how many emails you want to read in one batch. For example, you want to process 10 emails in one batch or 20, that is up to you. So that is the first functional requirement about email retrieval. Uh, The second primary requirement is when the email assistant retrieves or reads an unread email. After reading it, it should be able to classify that email into one of the several predefined categories. For example, uh, it can classify an email as related to a meeting or related to a task or related to an invoice. It can categorize an email as spam, as newsletter, as financial notification. So to understand this requirement in a bit more detail, for example, if you have a work-related email that requires you to complete some task within some certain deadline, then the email assistant should be correctly able to categorize that email as a task-related email. And in addition to categorization, it should also be able to capture a very concise summary of the email, and also it should be able to extract key data from the email. That key data would be required for by the email assistant to perform different kinds of actions. For example, uh, it would need key data to create a task related to an email that has been categorized as a task-based email. So three things the email assistant needs to be able to do. First is categorization. Second is capturing a very concise summary of the email, and third is capturing the key details, extracting key details from the email to help in, in further actions. The third functional requirement is once the categorization, capturing the concise summary and key details is complete, then the email assistant should be able to integrate with various APIs. It can be external API or it can be an API provided by the same email provider. So primarily the purpose of this integration is the email assistant needs to perform different kinds of actions depending on the type of email it is processing. For example, for a task related email, it needs to be able to create a task in the to-do list. So for that, it should be able to interact with a Microsoft to-do API, or if it is Gmail, then it should be able to integrate with whatever like Gmail provides as the API for interaction with the task management utility. And similarly for creating meeting invites, it should be able to integrate with the calendar API for different email providers. And while it is interacting with these external tools or external APIs, the primary purpose is to perform certain actions like creating tasks or creating meeting invites, right, based on what the content of the email is and the category of the email is. Additionally, like if an email is categorized as spam, the email assistant should be able to perform action like moving spam emails to junk folder or spam folder. If an email is categorized as newsletter, it should be able to archive such emails primarily to perform the function of cleaning up your inbox. Your inbox should not contain such clutter. So that is another primary functional requirement, right? So what we have seen so far, the email assistant is able to read emails, it is able to categorize email, it is able to capture the concise summary, capture key details of the emails. Based on that, it is able to perform actions like creating invites, creating tasks, marking email as spam, moving them to junk folder, or archiving the emails. These are the kind of actions that the email assistant should be able to perform. Finally, coming to the last set of functional requirements, for critical actions that are non-reversible, like sending emails or creating meeting invites, etc., the user should be able to configure such critical actions uh, for which human approval is needed. So that means that the email assistant should take explicit user approval before it actually performs an action like sending email, if such an action has been configured by the user, that the email assistant needs to take user approval for these actions. So using human in the loop mechanism, the email assistant should be able to take human approval for critical actions. Secondly, for performing actions for which sufficient data is not available in the email contents, uh, the email assistant should be able to ask questions to the user for clarifications so that it is able to gather the required information for performing the required action. For example, if a meeting related email mentions the date of the meeting, but it doesn't mention the exact time for the meeting, then the email assistant should ask a clarifying question uh, regarding the exact time when the meeting should be scheduled on that date. Right. Finally, the last functional requirement is that once the email assistant has processed all the emails in a batch, then it should create a consolidated summary uh, of what of all the emails that it has processed, what actions it took on each of the emails, and what was the result of those actions. So this summary report should be displayed to the user in the chosen UI interface, user interface that the user has chosen to interact with the email assistant. So the email assistant is basically should be transparent to the user about its functioning. Now coming to the non-functional requirements, which are a bit technical, but we will primarily touch two non-functional requirements briefly. The first one is the email assistant should keep all the credentials that it uses to connect to email providers in a secret manager. So should not store any security related information or credentials locally. It should not hardcode any API keys. All such sensitive information should be managed via a secret manager. Lastly, the user interface that is used to interact with the email assistant, it should be pluggable. That that means that we should be able to switch between different implementations of user interface. For example, we can either choose to use a console UI or Telegram interface or a web interface. So the system architecture and implementation should support this decoupling. So this is broadly uh, the functional and non-functional requirements that drive the design and the implementation of the email assistant. So in part 2 of the series, we will look at the system design and uh, the architecture of the email assistant in detail. And in the final part, we'll actually have a live demo of the functioning of the email assistant, and maybe we'll touch a little bit in more detail about the implementation aspects as well. Thank you very much for your kind attention to this matter.